Imagine this. Walk into almost any Chinese office, wedding banquet, or neighborhood noodle shop, and the question appears as naturally as asking for your name. What's your zodiac animal? Executives sometimes time product launches with the perceived tone of the coming year. Officials use zodiac chatter to warm up a room and shorten the distance between podium and people. Families swap jokes and hopes in the same breath. I'm a dragon, so of course I'm picky. Our kid's a rabbit, nimble since day one. In conversations about personality, yearly trends, friendship and marriage, even team chemistry at work, the Chinese Zodiac is not a niche hobby. It is an everyday interface. Curious about these Zodiac stories? Tell me your animal and the signs you get along with in the comments. And if this was fun, hit subscribe, like, and share. It means a lot to me. Good luck! To a newcomer, this can feel charming and puzzling at once. Putting the entire human population into 12 animal boxes does not sound scientific, and yet the system has persisted for more than 2 millennia. Many people also report a disarming sensation that parts of it are weirdly accurate. Is this mysticism, or is there a pattern that makes it so usable? The honest answer is that both things are true at once. The zodiac works because it is a cultural technology, a compact way to remember time, talk about character, and plan relationships. It survives because it satisfies two deep human needs: the need for a shared story and the need for manageable action. The most animated origin story is the cosmic foot race. The Jade Emperor, the tale goes, wanted 12 animals to mark the passing of years so people could keep time with something memorable. He announced a race to the heavenly gate. The first 12 to arrive would be chosen, and their finishing order would become the zodiac order. The ox set out at dawn, with steady steps and a calm heart, thinking the crown was his. Unseen on its back rode a tiny passenger. As the gate approached, the rat leapt from the ox's head and touched the finish line first. The ox took second. The tiger thundered in third. Then rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. On its surface, the story explains nothing more than the order of the animals. But to traditional imagination, the tale carries a larger hint. Human order echoes cosmic order. The clever rat and the diligent ox are not merely cartoon personalities. They are mnemonic symbols affixed to years, festivals, taboos, and jokes handles for remembering who we are in time. There is also a quieter, harder layer beneath the folklore. Ancient Chinese astronomers paid close attention to Jupiter, called the year star, or Sui Xing. Jupiter takes roughly 12 years to circle the sky. The 12-year cycle felt palpable to observers of agriculture, warfare, and dynastic life. So people divided the sky's long breadth into 12 segments and clothed each segment with an animal. The result was a calendar that wears animal coats. It was never intended as a genetic map of your destiny. It was, first of all, a way to mark time, to tell stories about generations, and to build a sense of belonging around an easy code. Start with the psychological lens. Humans are narrative creatures. When you hear a sentence like, "Dragons are imaginative, but should guard against chasing reputation," your brain does not sit still. It searches your memory for matching fragments, turns up the volume on them, and turns down the ones that don't fit. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. The vaguer the description, the more room your mind has to map it onto your experience. Which is why general personality blurbs feel uncanny. That is the Barnum effect. Add something else that matters even more in Chinese households: social instruction. If grandparents repeat, "You're a tiger, be brave," those words become a cue for behavior. In decisive moments, you choose the bold move, and the outcome, then, proves the label. That is a self-fulfilling loop. Group dynamics double the effect. Asking, "What's your sign?" creates a fast identity port. Compliments and teasing around the dinner table form a feedback loop, in which you learn how to play the role your animal implies. Colleagues and relatives see what they expect to see and praise you when you display the role convincingly. Feared or favored traits become a script you gradually internalize. None of this requires mysticism to operate. It requires only social reinforcement and a mind that compresses complexity into manageable stories. Now look through the cosmological lens. In the Chinese view, the sky and the human world breathe together. Seasons, solar terms, winds, and grains are not abstract weather. They set the tempo of labor, rest, and ritual. The five elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, water, are not literal substances but patterns of growth, heat, stability, edge, and flow. The heavenly stems and earthly branches form a naming system for time, and the animals personify the branches so people can remember them. In this telling, the zodiac is not a genetic classifier. It is a rhythm map. It says, certain combinations of temperament and timing feel smooth, others will need careful handling, and a few might be better left for later. Put the two lenses together, and the accuracy puzzle softens. A cultural rhythm map meets a storytelling brain. One supplies poetic structure and shared language. The other supplies personal meaning and action. That is why the zodiac, even when stripped of prophetic claims, remains useful. It lowers the cost of thinking about relationships and timing. It organizes conversation and cooperation. It lets people say serious things playfully. For everyday use, the emphasis is not, "This is what you are for life." The emphasis is, "These animals work well together. Those ones rub." And in this particular year, a certain sign should exercise more caution. Three ideas dominate practice: compatibility, conflict, and the annual relationship with Tai Sui, the Grand Duke of the year. Compatibility first. Two structures matter. The 6 harmonies, called Liu-He, pair each branch with a secret partner that supplies strong complementarity. The 3 matches, called San-He, group 3 branches into a mini-alliance that shares a common element and rhythm. The tone is not fatalistic, it is pragmatic. A complementary partnership is like a well-balanced team. A triple match is like a group that speaks the same tempo. Here is how people explain the logic in plain terms. Rat and ox belong to a strong pair. Rat is quick to sense opportunity and to plan routes, while ox is steady and methodical, bringing plans into the field. Put them together and cleverness gains traction. Horse and goat are another favorite combination. Horse surges forward and explores, while goat soothes edges, tends to details, and keeps the camp humane. The result is momentum without fraying nerves. Rabbit and dog are a graceful alliance. Rabbit brings attention to feelings, dog brings principled boundaries. Intimacy can be warm and safe at once. Dragon and rooster sound unusual at first, but people in the tradition see a logic. Dragon sketches a grand horizon. Rooster brings order, scheduling, and proof. Vision finds a checklist. Conflict, called the 6 clashes, or Liu-Chong, is the counter map. Rat clashes with horse, ox with goat, tiger with monkey, rabbit with rooster, dragon with dog, snake with pig. A clash is not a doom stamp. It is a caution flag. In a clash pairing, both sides may compete for control of the same space or value the same move for opposite reasons. The practical advice is not never pair. It is write a compact before you start. Who sets direction? Who sets pace? Who keeps the ledger and runs the retrospective? If you can assign roles in a way that respects both natures, the very tension that causes friction can become thrust. Finally, there is the year. Chinese speakers talk about the relationship between your sign and the year's Tai Sui, the Grand Duke, that presides over that annual branch. People say you may be in conflict with Tai Sui or offending Tai Sui, which functions like a life management alert. It does not mean calamity must occur. It means reduce avoidable risk, handle contracts and travel with more attention, cushion your schedule, mind your health. Folk remedies, red threads, talismans, a donation to charity, are not physics. They are behavioral anchors that produce a sense of agency, which in turn steadies decisions. For anxious years, that is not a small thing. Because the zodiac is a social interface, its first use is conversation. But it does more than lubricate small talk. It supplies a clean way to ask, how do we fit, without invading privacy. A newly engaged couple may hear elders say their animals combine well or need balancing. Sometimes that is pure superstition. Often, it is a coded way of saying, you two have complementary tendencies, or please agree on who leads what to reduce friction. In family life, parents and grandparents use animal language to nudge a child toward certain habits. The nudges can be helpful or heavy-handed. A tiger child may be encouraged to take healthy risks, but also to learn gentleness. A rabbit child may be praised for empathy, but fortified with routines that build backbone. Think of the animal as a story handle for coaching virtues. In the workplace, the map helps leaders compose teams with a mix of initiative, patience, order, and adaptation. A dragon-heavy planning group might benefit from a rooster-like operator who loves clean process, and from an ox-like finisher who will grind through the unglamorous middle. A team with too many monkeys can delight the room and still fail to ship. Adding a snake-style analyst and a dog-style guardian can settle the pattern. Again, the point is not that employees are literally those animals. The point is that the language provides an easy way to ask, do we have these roles covered? Anecdotes make the logic feel concrete. Consider a rabbit designer, creative, sensitive, allergic to confrontation, who stalled for years on launching a brand. He finally partnered with a dog type, loyal, principled, unafraid of contracts and deadlines. The partnership worked precisely because it was a classic rabbit-dog pairing, feeling paired with backbone. The designer still did his art, the partner guarded the perimeter, and the company at last stepped into the market. In another case, a rat founder with brilliant plans struggled to materialize them. Hiring an ox-like operations lead and later a monkey-like product engineer turned intelligence into a functioning machine. The rat's cleverness, the ox's steadiness, and the monkey's improvisation formed a textbook three-match. Before giving a practical guide, it helps to say clearly what the zodiac is not. It is not a scientific profile of your DNA. It is not an excuse for mistreating others. I'm a tiger, so I shout. I'm a rooster, so I nitpick. It is not a trapdoor for fatalism. Chinese tradition itself folds in warnings against misusing the language. The fact that two animals clash in name does not mean two people cannot love each other or work brilliantly side by side. It means you will need explicit agreements so your strengths do not cancel each other. The fact that a year is said to be unfavorable for your sign does not justify hiding from life. It justifies planning, buffering, and making your margin of safety thicker. Start with your own sign as a conversation starter, not a verdict. If you were born in a rat year, you can adopt rat as a shorthand for traits others often see in you: nimble, strategic, curious, while also remembering that your family, education, gender norms, region, and job have shaped you at least as much. If this balance is kept in mind, you can use compatibility maps without being owned by them. When you think about pairing, ask two questions. The first is complementarity. Which animals pair with yours in a way that covers blind spots? The second is friction. Which animals clash with yours in a way that will require structure and patience? These are not yes divided by no gates. They are planning prompts. A rat working with an ox should decide early which tasks are rat's exploratory realm and which are ox's execution lane. A dragon and rooster should agree on the cadence of planning and the criteria for done to keep vision from hovering and checklists from strangling creativity. A dragon and tiger need to agree more fundamentally on the chain of command. If both insist on steering the same wheel all the time, the car will fishtail. If they assign lead and deputy by domain, the car will fly. Marriage and long partnerships are more than mechanics, but the same logic holds. In a rabbit-dog household, the rabbit's warmth has to be matched by the dog's fairness, or the rabbit will feel smothered by rules and the dog will feel abused by mood. In a horse-goat household, the horse must learn that rest is not sloth, and the goat must learn that speed is not recklessness. These are not mystical conclusions. They are observations dressed in animal clothing, so they are easier to say aloud. If your sign is said to be offending Tai Sui in a given year, treat that not as a curse but as a management nudge. Think of it as a red triangle on your dashboard. Change the oil sooner, check the tires before long trips, and stop trying to set personal records on wet roads. People make a plan around this mood. They schedule health checks, reread the fine print, keep emergency cash fatter, favor incremental gains over dramatic pivots, and spice their calendar with rituals that replenish morale. The point of the ritual is not to change the planets. It is to change the person. A person with a plan errs less, recovers faster, and feels less alone. Critics sometimes ask why any of this should persist in a modern state. The answer is that the zodiac's persistence says as much about communication as it does about belief. A society needs shared metaphors. In English, sports metaphors perform this role. Move the goalposts, drop the ball, Hail Mary, slam dunk. In Chinese, animals carry the load. Calling someone a rooster is not an insult. It is a way to say, you are irreplaceably good at order, though you may need to loosen your jaw. Describing a friend as a dragon does not mean she controls thunder. It means you dream big. You will benefit from people who take pleasure in checklists. The language is sticky because it is social poetry. Advanced users combine the animal map with the 5-element map. Each animal corresponds to an element in specific seasonal settings. Wood fuels fire. Fire creates earth ash. Earth yields metal. Metal carries water condensation, and water nourishes wood. Elements can generate or overcome one another, producing a subtler logic of compatible and challenging. A wood-heavy temperament may work wonderfully with fire types, who can burn bright with that fuel. But the same wood person may need to learn boundaries around metal types who slice. Couples and teams that learn to speak this language can disagree with respect because they have an impersonal way to describe why a certain move made sense to one person and not the other. If you are building a team and want to translate this into non-mystical action, you might do it in 3 steps. First, list the functions your team must perform: vision, analysis, planning, execution, review, bridge building, and guarding. Second, ask who naturally embodies each function. Third, translate that pattern into a small story everyone remembers. We have dragon and rooster for the top and the checklist, ox for the middle, rabbit for the client's feelings, dog for the gate. Now, whenever conflict arises, the group can point to the story rather than the person and adjust roles with less ego. Because the zodiac is powerful as a story engine, it can also misfire. There are 3 common traps. The first is stereotyping by animal as a substitute for knowing a person. If you decide a colleague is a monkey so unreliable, you might miss that his unreliability is a resource mismatch, not a character flaw. The second is blaming fate for choices. Saying, I'm a pig so I'm lazy, is a way to avoid the hard work of learning discipline. The third is fatalistic romance. A couple that reads, we clash, may give up at the first quarrel. A couple that reads, we match, may ignore problems they should solve. The antidote in all 3 cases is the same. Treat the zodiac as a framework for thoughtful questions, not a final answer. For Western readers, the zodiac can feel like a cousin of astrology, and in some ways the social function overlaps. Both offer a calendar of symbols that help people speak about themselves and their relationships. The difference is tonal. The Chinese zodiac is anchored to years, not months, and its public usage leans toward compatibility and caution, not individual therapy. It is less about a private chart and more about a shared script that allows a vast, diverse population to coordinate feelings and expectations without embarrassment. This is why the zodiac still thrives in a modern urban China. It allows strangers to become neighbors with a joke. It allows elders to give advice that might sound harsh if said plainly. It allows employers and employees to broach the question of fit in a language that softens egos. In a society that moves fast, any tool that eases coordination without draining dignity will find a home. Because readers often ask for a snapshot of what the animals imply, it is worth taking a brisk tour, not as fate, but as public archetypes. The rat is the one who finds openings. The ox, the one who carries the load. The tiger is courage with teeth. The rabbit is sensitivity with grace. The dragon is vision that lifts. The snake is depth that disagrees quietly. The horse is motion and freedom. The goat is harmony and care. The monkey is play that solves problems. The rooster is order that delivers. The dog is loyalty with law. The pig is ease that refuels the room. In any household or company, you will meet all 12 energies in different ratios. The purpose of the map is to help you respect what each contributes and plan for where each might go too far. Begin with your birth year animal as a conversational identity. Then translate it into 2 practical questions. First, which partner animals historically complement yours, and what capacities do they bring? Second, which pairings historically demand more structure, and what rules will keep harmony? Do not look for guarantees. Look for agreements. Use the year's Tai Sui relationship as a prompt to thicken your buffer. If it is a cautious year for your sign, reduce debt, buy time rather than squeezing margins, schedule checkups, read contracts twice, and let rituals and color choices remind you that life is bigger than a single sprint. If it is a favorable year, do not get drunk on it. Use the tailwind to shore up foundations, as well as to reach for opportunity. When you make decisions in love or hiring, let the zodiac be one input among many. Ask for real references, observe real behavior, and weigh real values. The zodiac can frame conversations you might otherwise avoid. We are both used to steering. How shall we divide the wheel? And that alone can save a partnership from avoidable pain. Picture a small design studio in a crowded Chinese city. Its founder is a rabbit by year, gentle with clients, allergic to hard sells, brilliant with texture and warm light. For 3 years she held back on expansion, imagining perfect projects and fearing paperwork. A friend introduced her to a dog-ear accountant who had quietly run logistics at a larger firm. He did not force, he steadied. The two drew up a compact in plain language. She would own brand and creative calls. He would own contracts, budgeting, and the hiring pipeline. They would review every second Friday with a short agenda they both could stomach. In the first quarter they stumbled. In the second they hit rhythm. By the third they hired a rooster-like project manager who loved deadlines and a horse-like producer who loved motion. The studio lifted. Ask later what changed. The founder did not say, "Fate improved." She said, "I stopped trying to be every animal and learned to respect the map." A skeptic can call all this elaborate folklore. A believer can call it the fingerprint of heaven. Both will miss the more interesting truth. The Chinese Zodiac is a cultural circuit that converts cosmology into conversation, conversation into coordination, and coordination into calmer lives. It is neither a lab test nor a lottery ticket. It is a language for seeing how people fit and for planning how to live when the year feels fast or slow, gentle or sharp. So if you are new to it, start here. Learn your animal and the simple compatibility pairs and trios. Treat clash pairs as projects that need clearer compacts. During a year that tradition labels risky, bias your calendar toward buffers and your heart toward kindness. In a bright year, Do not gloat. Compound. Speak of animals the way you would speak of weather, not as excuses, but as context. If a storm is likely, bring a coat. If the sky clears, walk farther. That is not mysticism. That is wisdom wearing a friendly face. And now, the only question that matters in a room full of new friends is the simplest one. What's your sign? If the question unlocks a story, a laugh, and a plan, then the old language has done what it was designed to do. It has turned a crowd into a circle, and a fate into a choice. If this long read gave you a clearer view, share it with someone who has always wondered why 12 animals could organize a civilization's small talk for 2,000 years. Tell them it was never about cages. It was always about bridges.